This week's Parsha is parshas eikev. Towards the end of parshas eikev, we have the second paragraph of Shema, which we recite twice a day in the morning and evening prayers. Second paragraph of Shema starts off with the words, V'hayim shemaya tishmu el mitzvaysai, asher anochi mitzaveh eschem hayem. If you shall listen to the mitzvahs that I have given you, then the paragraph goes on to say that lots of good things will happen. You'll get the rain in its time. You'll have what to eat. You'll be satisfied with what you eat. And then it says, if you will not do what Hashem wants, if you will veer from the path that Hashem has set out for you, and you shall serve idols, then Hashem will throw us out of the land of Israel. And we will go into Galus, into exile. After saying that, the paragraph goes on to say, "V'samtem es Dvar eila al levavchem." You should place these words on your heart, v'al nafshechem, and on your souls. And it talks about that you should talk about words of Torah when you get up, when you go to sleep, when you go on your way, put on tefillin, and so on. It's interesting that the beginning of the paragraph talks about listening to the general mitzvahs, doesn't refer to any specific mitzvahs, and doesn't talk about certain instances when we should talk about words of Torah, like it talks about at the end of the paragraph. And the end of the paragraph seems to be talking about something very specific. It talks about tefillin, it talks about doing this, doing that, doing this, and gives a list of things you should do. Learn Torah in the morning and the evening, teach your children. So why in the beginning of the paragraph does it talk about the general listening to the mitzvahs of Hashem? And focusing on that, listening to the mitzvahs of Hashem. It seems towards the end it says you shall place these words on your heart and on your souls and do this and do that and do this mitzvah and that mitzvah and this mitzvah. So Rashi actually understands that the way to understand this paragraph is different than we would normally assume. That the beginning of the paragraph is talking about listening to Hashem's mitzvahs, and therefore Hashem will give us all of these brachos, of these blessings. If we don't listen, then Hashem will throw us out of the land and we will not have these brachos. Rashi understands that the next part of the paragraph that talks about the specific things we should do is talking about how we should conduct ourselves in Galus, in exile. It's a very interesting way of understanding the paragraph, and Rashi is always the pshat, the simple understanding, but according to Rashi, the simple understanding is that the verse is saying, if you will listen to the mitzvahs, then you'll be in the land of Israel, you'll get all the brachos, you get all the blessings, and if you don't do that, if you don't listen to the mitzvahs and you serve idols, then Hashem will throw you out, and this is what you should do instead while you're in exile. Samtem es Dvar eila al levavchem. Place these words on your heart and your soul, learn Torah the morning and evening, put on tefillin, and so on and so on. Do. So the focus is in Galus, in exile, is to do activities, to do the action of mitzvahs. While when we're talking about the beginning of the paragraph, which talks about when we're in the land of Israel, the focus is on listening to the mitzvahs. I think this is very telling. Unfortunately, we live very far from the time that we lived in the land of Israel with the temple. We are unfamiliar with the whole idea of like sanctity, holiness. These are things that we have trouble connecting to, probably because of the distance of time that we've had generations upon generations who have not experienced what true sanctity is, what the temple really was. We've become desensitized to the idea of what is holy, what is spiritual. We don't feel the Jewish feeling. So that's what the verse is telling us. The verse is telling us that while we're in the land of Israel and the temple stands, listening to the mitzvahs themselves, having that sensitivity because we have it available to us, is in and of itself the way we should go about following the path of Hashem. Obviously doing the mitzvahs also, but that sensitivity is the main focus. And as a result, we do the mitzvahs. While you're in Galus, while you're in exile, where that sensitivity has been dulled and almost lost, the main focus should be on doing, acting like a Jew, doing the external actions that make us Jewish people. Put on tefillin, learn Torah morning, evening, make it what you discuss, activity upon activity upon activity, because that's the only way we will become sensitive to spiritual things, to sanctity. And that's what the way Rashi formats the paragraph, that when we're in Golus, when we're in exile, the focus is on action. Do action. Don't just try to have an idea of being Jewish. You have to focus on doing more and more actions because your sensitivities to spirituality have been dulled. But while in Eretz Yisrael, on the land of Israel, though, the focus is more on the listening, on the conceptual Judaism. Just wanted to end off with a question. The beginning of the Parsha talks of eikev tishmun esem mishpatim eila. Very similar to the paragraph of Ahayim Shemaya. It's if you do this, then you'll get this. If you don't do this, then you won't get this. But what's interesting is that when it talks about what you should do, it only talks about the mishpatim. Mishpatim means, a mishpat specifically is a type of law we can understand the reason for. And even the non-Jews can understand the reason for it. Mishpat is justice. It's something that people understand as a means of achieving justice. But for some reason, the beginning of the Parsha only talks about if you shall listen to the mishpatim, specifically the mishpatim. The question is why? Have a good Shabbos.